touch the cube for my necklace, and once of primordialization of the 9th series satchel just to see if I can get a quicker 600%, but it didn't work out. So I end up slowing down my altar just like a little bit longer than I need to uh, with that gamble of testing. But yes, I did resalvage the useless one, but I still don't have enough primals now because of that attempt. So I'm still hunting for the next primals. The new season, I've played Ethereals back in season 24. Back in season 24, I was like 1.7k Paragon, and it was 9 mil sheet. Uh, of course, back then there wasn't any Guardians Jeopardy rework. Uh, but I would say this season, it's nice that I got the setup I want. It's nice that I got a push that I wanted to showcase, which I didn't expect to be that good of a jump. Uh, I mean, I did get the 128, 131, 133, 135, 137, 138 in 6 keys total, like one key for each of those. The other day, when I was still um 1170 up to 1204 Paragon. When I closed the 138, it gave me 1,209, as the final Paragon mark number. So I did get a 138 down, with 12.1 mil sheet. Not that the sheet matters, it's the cold damage. My cold damage is only like early 15 mil. So in terms of damage this season treating me as well, it's kind of slow because I should have a lot more damage. I should be at like probably 15 mil sheet and 20 mil cold by now. That's uh I mean a reasonable expectation, I would say. And it's not just about oh, you can't do the 132. Well, okay, so it depends on your strategy of your strafing, right? So whenever you're doing your higher GRs, and I've noticed some people in the way they strafe, and of course, if you're new to God DH pushing, this season the Ethereal Bariza is the strongest one, and it makes God DH pretty easy, I would say. Um, but it's all about how you strafe and how you decide on the elite packs, because uh so in non-ethereal or non-soul shard season, for the god DH, the first elite pack, if it's a yellow elite pack, uh in weaker seasons, the higher you go in terms of god DH pushing, you can't do the first yellow and not even the second yellow. Basically, when you see one or two yellows at the start, the god DH kind of has a problem, so you end up needing to do more density instead. So, with the power of the Bariza, people are thinking, well, you should elite hunt. Yes and no. So, that's the problem. That's one of the problems. And then because people do speed runs a lot, they get so used to elite hunting. So when you do a higher and higher push, all you're doing is strafing right through. So you're not getting the impact that you actually want. So it's the strafing that you need to uh, just pay more attention to by knowing how you strafe. And then the other thing is the your Bariza, your actual power, as well as the passive. The passive is only like, because we don't normally use Hellfire Amulet anyway, the fifth passive here is like not very difficult to decide. It does have an impact depending on what whether it's a bad one or a good one. But the most important is the power, right? So I have both if I want to use, but I myself prefer the Vala one because it's my playstyle too. I I just rather take the damage or know how to handle the incoming damage as it is. Of course, Fortress Ballista is for speeds as well as when your Paragon is so high that the Fortress comes back. So, but the in between time, the Valas is good depending on your density too. So if you have more damage, then Fortress is better. If you have lesser damage, the Valas is better because you're using the density as more impact on whatever is in the middle of the density, right? So it just comes down to understanding how you use the Vala or the Fortress. Yeah. Um Especially in the 132, it this season with Ethereal, you need to watch how you're freezing your targets, right? And that's why the strafing is important. A lot of people, like I said, I keep repeating this. Whenever you're strafing forward, I know this does not really represent how it is, but to me, when you strafe in a straight line forward, just like speeds, but doing a higher rift, so obviously 132 is not really pushing either this season, but in terms of 132 being a push, when you strafe forward like that, your freezing is more of the things behind you or beside you, right? But whatever things that are like way ahead of you, if they saw you first and you didn't freeze them with this 35% chance to freeze, even though it feels more than 35 anyway, or maybe you feel that it's lesser than 35%, but you're not freezing the things way ahead of you. So when you're not freezing the things way ahead of you because of the strafe being straightforward in a straight line through right through that you are normally used to, you're going to get hit and get hurt by what's coming towards you. And so then you break your Squirt's necklace even faster, and then thus you fail the 132. Now, on the other side of things, right? Let's not talk about yourself, but you could be opening a really bad 132 as well. But then knowing that, knowing that it's a bad 132, then you need to fall back on your elite hunting, right? Because the density sucks. So you need to elite hunt in a way to buy back the time. But God DH is also a density killer. So you still have to find a way to balance between 60% elite, 40% density, or 50-50. So you shouldn't do 100% elite hunting, whether that's your method or not. So me personally, I always think about 70% density, 30% elite for the most part of God DH. For the most part, like in general, when I play God DH, no matter what I do, whether it's speed runs or pushing, I have like a 70-30 to a 65-35 split between density and elite. Now, of course, if you're doing lower and lower, you just strafe right through and everything dies. So that sounds like elite hunting, but you're still killing the trash on the way, right? The lower the GR tier number is. So that's not really elite hunting. That's just your damage output being able to actually clear the random trash. But when the person decides to strafe in a straight line through, but they're not killing every single random trash, you're actually losing. Yeah, and that's good. That's good because I mean I taught you some stuff and you learn from it, right? So it's good that you're killing on the way. But the whole idea is, I mean, I can start strafing through a 132 to show you, not to like, break your heart and say that, oh look, you did this 132. But let's just say that my damage is this 12.4, right? Okay, your damage might be higher, and you might be using Dex gems as well, like the emeralds in the chest piece and the pants and whatnot. That is fine as long as you're not chain dying all the time. And I recently, because I recently switched to this restraint. I wasn't using this restraint when I'm pushed, but I recently dropped my lightning, so my lightning resist is a little low, to be honest, and that's where I might get hurt even worse. Okay, your damage is 8.5, right? Um, hmm. Are y- have you already started using Guardians, or are you not using Guardians yet? Because I feel like you're missing something if you're still, or you just started. Like, how far are you? Well, you said 1378 Paragon. Hmm. There, you got to be missing some kind of um ratio. Yeah, you should use Guardians. You should be using Guardians as soon as you got the plans. Yeah. And that's the other part, and that's one of the reason. The Guardians not like new, but it's been a while. It's been since what? Probably season 27, or is it season 28, or even earlier than that? But it's around there. So it's been a while now that the Guardian set rework popped up. Um, I know that it's not there back in season 24 and stuff, but like in terms of uh this season being newer to everyone, is that we got to play ethereals for those people that like us that played season 24. Back then we didn't have Guardian Jeopardy to go with, so my sheet was 9 million at 1700 Paragon, which is where kind of where you stand because there is no Guardians, right? Yeah, so if you are, well, I mean, your 1378 Paragon, I don't know how much materials you farm, but you should just try to get. So if you have a good Hunter's Wrath, okay, so what is your Hunter's Wrath like belt looking like? Because that makes a decision to whether you can play the belt version of the Guardians, or you have to use the helmet version. It depends on how much you love your Hunter's Wrath. A lot of people love the Hunter's Wrath because they got a primal version, let's say, or like a near 200% ancient, or even a 200% non-ancient, and they love it. So you got to ask yourself whether your Hunter's Wrath is like good or not, because and the reason why I asked that question is because it does respect the person, right? Okay, 984. Okay, what are the primary stats on it? I just want to make sure that you're not locked in. I know that it's ancient, so you augment it. Okay, but what are the primary stats? I just want to get an idea of whether it's survivability issue as well. Because if you have the offense, it's probably your survivability as well. So I just want to get a check on that Hunter's Wrath. What are the primary stats on it? Does it look like the one that I'm showing here, but as a Hunter's Wrath? So meaning that Dex Vit all resist, or Dex Vit life percent Hunter's Hungering Arrow. So you have a choice to keep, in a sense that if it is percent life, okay, then your chess piece wants to be the all resist version, okay? So it is interconnected in that sense. So if your Hunter's Wrath is something that you really have to keep, then you have to use the Guardian Helmet way. Now, the downside of the okay, so it's pretty okay. Uh so it has both the 129 and the 12% life, right? So did you roll have you rolled something on it already to get that stats? Because at that point I would say roll that 12% life to hungering, because one, you want, if you so the reason why I rolled vitality on mine is because I also got 14%. Okay, you rolled the vite. Okay. Okay, I see. Okay. So honestly then, it's not a good one. Your belt is not good enough. Very unfortunate. Because Guardians also, okay, just check and make sure, okay? Because like I said, the reason why I make you double check and why I'm checking with you Like, to be very specific, okay, you rolled the resist. Okay. What is your overall resistances then? Like, when you check your details, is it around above 900 each? Or did you have to get this 129 just to get above 900? Because now I'm just trying to make sure that I'm not trying to kill you, even though Guardians will help you survive as well. But of course, the other part that's going to be crazy hard to understand is, how do you survive without share the BNet profile link is faster? Yeah, it is, but I just I just want to, like, you know, make sure that, oh, add. Okay, I'll wait. Hi Laughing Gore, welcome back. Yeah, yeah, of course. While he's on the ad, if you're not on the ads, um, yeah, of course. I love doing gear checks, and profile check is definitely faster. But I can talk it out as well. Uh, and I just want to explain the next part is Guardian helmets. Is can get quite annoying. In terms of RNG. So I just want to make sure that um I respect both that the person enjoys their belt, but also understand that if you're locked into a belt, you basically lock yourself into, you know, struggling when you don't need to struggle as much. So there's some different ways that I can share in terms of how to go about the thing. But yes, whenever doing the gear check, which resist do I want? I want to understand what are your overall resistances. So yes, like Laughing Gore said during your ad, is that yes, you can share the profile planner if you want, if you made one, um, or just tell me what your overall resist. Does it look like this? Aside from my 990, because I dropped it off with using a different restraint that I recently got. I mean, this is not the best restraint either, but like, uh, I just it was just like a little side grade, even though I still prefer the lightning resist. Okay, never made a plan. It doesn't matter. That's why I also like rather just go through it since I'm on stream. And sure, I can show the profile planner on stream as well, but I think it's better to show through in game when I'm on a game. Whenever I use profile planners, I prefer just, going through it on Discord and stuff like that. Because, aside from screen sharing, profile planners are just better when you're not like showing your in-game screen anyway. So, uh, just to give you an idea anyway, if you have to get resist on your belt, you might as well just craft guardian belts anyway, because eventually you'll craft one that gets it, preferably an all resist one, ancient, and belts are easier than the helmets. So if you have to force 129 resist just to get a reasonable amount, you might as well just craft Guardian's belt, okay, and use Guardians, because until you have the right Paragon, which is around, depending on certain people. Now, if your RNG is lucky to where you get like three usable primals for the traditional God DH, which is which is how you're playing. Okay, so your resistance are pretty low. Okay, so which means you need that 129 resist. So I suggest to you that you craft Guardian's belt, and you need a good one. Okay, so you need one that looks similar to mine, or basically similar to what you have, but with the hungering arrow percent, which is basically mine. So you want to craft Guardian's belt. So you can still keep that Hunter's Wrath that you want in your stash. It's just a one box item. but you want to extract the Hunter's Wrath, a different Hunter's Wrath if you haven't extracted one. Okay? You want to craft Guardian's Belt. Next, uh, you want to craft the Guardian Bracers. Now, that's why I wanted to talk about is that a lot of people also get too used to the Reps of Clarity. So unless you're using, like, let's say 3 usable primals or more on a traditional God DH to do the planner, it's on max roll, uh, D3 planner. Let me see. I have multiple links, but I can just drop that right here. But yeah, so you want to craft you want to craft you want to craft Guardian Bracers at, well, you want to craft one or two Guardian Bracers first, and you want to see if you can get cold and crit, right? I mean, that's not like too much of a like it's not too difficult, but it also doesn't have to be ancient, okay? But in your case, because of your resistances, unfortunately, you want to have an ancient version because your overall resistances are going to drop like a lot, even though 99 or 100 on a non-ancient isn't far off, but it just feels bad to even have 30 or 40 less overall, right? So you want to craft Guardian Bracers and Guardian's Belt, okay? And then your 8.5 will basically double up because the 3-piece bonus, okay, if you read here, it says you gain an additional 100% of your base strength, dexterity, intelligence, and vitality attributes from equipped items. So, in fact, you know, whenever we think of Guardian, the most effective way is to use emeralds in the chest and pants if you want to play offense and defense in a way, because if you're a person that is also used to having like more than 900 resistances, unless you have all resist like everywhere else to the point where you actually maintain the same amount anyway without using diamonds, then yes, it is good that you play offense because the dexterity will get the benefit. Okay, the emeralds do benefit through that. But again, if you're dying, now it depends on whether you're dying and not killing. So if you kill faster, then the emeralds is better. But if you're dying and not killing them, like if you're chain dying, then the diamonds are better. Okay? I'm a player that gets really used to doing the diamonds anyway, and I made up my damage through the way I strafe. So you want to use a guardian set, basically. So knowing that you are struggling on a 132, a lot of it has to do with just making use of the guardian rework. Not to say that the traditional can't do it, because remember, when we go higher Paragon, aside from obviously when you're higher Paragon, oh, sorry, my bot is just terrible with that. Um, wait, you didn't link me the thing, but I'll untime you out. Give me 1 second. But you didn't really get the URL, you know. I'll untime you out, but give me 1 second. I'll permit you, but you didn't really save the. Let me see if I can permit. Yeah, I hope bot rigs doesn't get you, because I don't know about bot rigs very well in terms of permit wise, but I know that all the other bots shouldn't do much to it. But yeah, yeah, just tag me on Discord. Okay. Um, but You didn't really get the URL, by the way. So a planner URL, you have to go to the import save tab on that screen, and then at the second part, there's you can save your planner profile. You need to click the save and then pull the URL of that one, because the one I saw you link just now, you probably copied but not copied. You probably copied the one that you were gonna go to the planner website instead of copying the actual planner profile that you made in terms of URL. Okay. But going back to what I said earlier is that eventually, when you have higher Paragon anyway, past the point where Guardian actually helps, as well as people who use the All Guild version of the God DH. So there is an All Guild setup as well for the God DH for speeds, especially for more elite burst impact. But it is more glass cannon. Okay, I'll be there. Let me see. Okay, thank you. Got it. Let me see. And then, okay. See. All right. So obviously, yeah. So in order to show let me see. In order to show, let me, okay. So in order to show the thing, right? You have to go to equipment here. You have to go to the equipment tab, and then you have to click Visions of Amity, and then you want to select Ethereals. Okay. And then after that, you can click on the main hand, and then you can choose the Bariza, and then you can do all these settings. Okay. Well, you can change these numbers. Okay, change it to what they are, preferably, and then go to the bottom here. It says extra centuries. You can select, whether it's Vala, and then whether it's whatever. Um, let's say this is mine. You know, Vala and Artery, right? Because like that's what I'm using here. Vala and Artery. So yeah, yeah, that okay. But let's go back to the gear. Okay. So yeah, so offensively speaking, your belt isn't offensive enough. You're too defensive. Sure, the 194 is really good with offense in terms of legendary passive, but when you use guardians, right? So when you use guardians like mine, okay, like the way that I have it, my belt is in the cube, right? So you actually get the 200%. So you actually gain 6%, right? The next part is knowing whether you kept a depth diggers, okay, the pants, if you kept even a non-ancient version. So what you want to have is the legendary passive, right, legendary power of the pants to be 94% or higher, okay. So yes, why did I say 94%? Is because you don't want to have like a perfection kind of mindset anyway, because your previous 194% on the belt is missing 6% anyway, right? So the margin, whether it says primary skill and it's quote unquote better multiplier than the other one, whatever. Just use a percentage number of satisfaction that you have a certain bare minimum that you feel comfortable using. And for me, anything above 94% is okay. like more than reasonable. Okay, so you want to have a pants to use if you're using this Guardian belt setup. So then you gain your 200% by having it in the cube. Okay, and then your belt, you definitely want uh you know you want the belt to be Guardian's belt, and that the stats look like mine. So you want Dex, Vit, All Resist, and Hungering Arrow because you're missing the Hungering Arrow portion of a belt slot for primary skills. So builds. So normally, if you play Barbarian or something, right, and you play Frenzy, right, you see that the Frenzy is on the belt for the Frenzy build. So Hungering Arrow is the same thing. It uses up the belt slot, and so you want it on there. And the defensive portion is whether you have all resist on the chest piece already or the belt. But let's continue with your. Okay, so here's the funny thing, right? Your chest piece. So I so Okay, so this is all blue markers except this one. So your chest piece, you haven't touched it. Now your stats are really cool. So if you liked so much about your belt having that percent life, well, guess what? My kind of gear check, okay? Whenever I'm doing gear checks, I gear check in a foundational sense. Now everyone is like, priority stats. Well, obviously, this is regen to 15% life. So that's the priority stats kind of mindset. But if you think about it carefully, from your own gearing perspective, that 12% life felt so important in a way that you want that 12% life. Well, guess what? You can shift that 12% life to your chest piece right now. Because I don't see a blue marker. Like I just moused over different items. I see blue marker. What the blue marker means is that in game you have rolled something, and then your chess piece is left untouched. And for some reason you left it untouched. It might be your newest item, so yes, I can understand that. But from the perspective of foundational gear check, is that you can shift this 12% life to your chess piece by rolling that regenerate 6,131 to 15% life. And then you gain more than 12%, you got 15, well, let's say 13%, 14%, or 15% life, right? So now your chess piece holds what you were holding from your previous belt, or your this belt that now we don't want to be using. Okay? So that's how I look at it. The belt and the chess piece is kind of interconnected in that sense. So one or the other has the all resist and the percent life, or both having both life percents, or both having both all resist as well. So it just depends on the versions that you get in terms of RNG. So there's three ways to play the interconnectedness. Okay, so life per hit is cool on some builds, but not on every build. Now, God DH still likes life per hit in some ways, but because we have such damage power, the life per hit isn't as helpful because now you're killing faster and faster as you improve gear. If you're killing slower and slower, then yes, the life per hit helps. But with the fact of how much health we have, unfortunately, God DH isn't measuring up with life per hit up until you get to the really high GR, to where you're actually forcing to use an Oculus ring or a pink ring that the life per hit comes back to help you. So unfortunately, you should save this wraps for, let's say, multi-shot build, like Unhallowed Essence multi-shot or Marauder multi-shot. So this wraps of clarity, you can save it for um, your multi-shot builds, because it's fine. The way that you have it, it's fine. It's 44% out of 50, but it's a usable one for Marauder multi-shot or Unhallowed Essence multi-shot. So relying on the reps of clarity, the Guardians boost doubling of our toughness from vitality sense. So you'll have more toughness from that. However, you do get hit a little harder because the damage reduction from reps is really important. And that's why a lot of people get stuck um, loving it. And I get it, but Guardians help you in the beginning uh, because it also doubles up your offense, both defense and offense. So that is the more than break even concept. Yeah, I mean it's good. It's good that you're focusing on the uh I don't like the interaction of the site, but on the OBS uh anyway. But yes, you do have a lot of crit hit chance um because of the offhand and the amulet. Well, I'm not gonna care about that yet because the whole idea is that we want to fix up the foundational portion of the build anyway. But he is soloing. Okay. So anyway, yeah, now you have to use the Guardian setup. So once you use the Guardian setup, you'll feel a lot smoother for your 132. It's just that uh you probably haven't played the recent seasons to where ever since the Guardian Jeopardy got reworked that you haven't got a chance to use the Guardian setup. Okay. Uh yeah, that's pretty good. Uh yeah, cooldown. This cooldown isn't great. Okay, what is your cooldown total? Okay, 36.68. You're using a scoundrel. Okay, 36 isn't bad. It's just a little bit manual pressing. It just has a little issue for me. I'm not a fan of it. I like 38.6, but that's just me. Okay, and then your helmet, right? Okay, so I'm not sure to this where you said that you're focusing on cold and crit damage and whatnot. Your helmet is unfortunately not the style that you want because Guardians, Guardians, God DH isn't a build that uses a skill damage on the helmet. Okay, and you're using this probably in the beginning because you felt like ancient. Oh yes, more damage and whatnot. Well, based on the foundational sense, if you're not playing a build that relates the skill damage on the helmet. So what do I mean by that? For example, the meteor build. So when you play Tal Rasha Meteor, you know how when your helmet has the meteor percent damage and the crit hit chance that you want, right? So there's no room for vitality. Well, guess what? An ancient helmet especially, you get up to 1000 vitality, right? So whenever you're playing this, like those builds that your helmet has the opportunity to have base vitality, you want to have the base vitality. So I think you're forcing ancients on your helmet. That's my justification here, or my conclusion. That usually happens. I usually see one or two people having one or two slots that they force to use the ancient. And I mean, depending on how many whispers of atonements you have, the Patriot screams, you haven't augmented your helmet. And of course, you haven't augmented it because it looks shit anyways. tur tur turbo the turbo on Twitch, huh? That'll be helpful. Turbo on Twitch would be helpful, but that's another way to go about it for any stream that you want to watch, right? Yeah, so yeah, yeah. If you if you watch consistently and you watch a lot of like more than the people that you enjoy, and also if you aren't like if you don't like the emotes that the people make, right? Then turbo is better. Okay, just made about 6 decks. What is the secondary on it? Is there a secondary on it? Because I mean, I know that you typed all that life percent, right? Yeah, exactly, Levi. Yeah, that's what I feel too. If so, on my phone, I have a different account. For example, I decided to get Turbo on it because I watch different people and I get to watch it, without ads, in a way. I mean, I never got Turbo for that long, so I only recently decided to do it for my phone one anyway. And the reason why I do that is because um if I ever lost my phone, I don't want full impact loss. That's why I have a different account for my phone. Just the reason. Okay, Jedi, what's the secondary stats on that belt? I just want to make sure because when you mentioned the life per second, I get it, but like I just want to make sure we know what to do with the life per second. And that's why gear checking is a lot of work. I guess he can just take us. Well, this is not like a full Discord, so it's more like show belt is more like a screenshot thing, and that takes a long time, and then my bots are gonna kill him again because I have like multiple bots that like the night bot, bot tricks and whatnot, bot ricks and whatnot that uh one of the three will just strike people. Okay, it has physical resist. Okay, then it's fine. You can use this belt for now and just change the life per second to percent life. Okay, and then you play both life percent. Oh, no, 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 look, Levi, he just crafted it. He's just crafting belts right now. So unless he wants to keep sending me like per per URL per slot, that it gets quite tedious, right? Unless this is like a Discord screen share and whatnot. So I pulled up. Well, earlier, Laughing Gore suggested him to make a profile, and he did, right? So that's why I'm showing it on stream. But right now we've been talking about crafting. Oh, for the bracers, so cold. So you want at least the crit or the cold, right? So that you can get both together. So for guardians, early on, because you're doubling vitality as well, you want a version that has vitality on it. So meaning cold, dex, vitality, crit. And then a secondary with the direct resist. And then the gravy stat would be like, the 6 to 7% stuff. Yeah, so you want cold just like before. You want crit hit chance just like before. But for guardians, the the advantage is to have base vitality on your gear because it doubles on the defensive side as well. Yeah, I mean, okay, making 15, that's fine. The the funniest thing is, um, depending on your resources, you know, I always think of, different ways to min max. And while making 15 is good, sometimes you just overdo things when the first few are fine. So it just depends on how much resource you want to spend. Because sometimes the RNG is really good and then you get good ones, which is what I did in season 29. I crafted a one-off all guild shoulders, and on the second one I got like I crafted one at a time because it was really early. After I get the all guilds plan, I crafted the all guilds for the Tarasha setup just for a one-off stat stick version of the shoulder, because Tarasha doesn't have a shoulder requirement anyway. So a stat stick all guilds one of, which was funny because a lot of people would be like saying, "Thank you for the follow, by the way, Laughing Girl. I just forgot it's on my screen right here. I'm just so focused on getting the planner up, getting the foundation check. It was 36 minutes ago. Thank you, Laughing Gore. It's right here on my screen too, on the side. But yeah. Uh, so when I got the one-off ancient, it was it was like resource cost reduction that I love on the shoulder. It had the int vit that I wanted because the earlier you want the base vitality, because Taurasha, whether it's Guardian, especially in season 29, you want the vitality on the shoulders for sure. Just to make sure you have enough shields gameplay for the wizard builds anyways. Most wizard builds with the shields gameplay. You want the base vitality on the shoulder. So anyway, I was crafting one at a time for the shoulder, and I got it an ancient version that had int vit resource, and then I rolled off the fourth stat for area, and then I just got my shoulder already as a one-off all guilds, which was really weird for people to see because normally you would use the other side of it, right? But because it was a one-off, it was weird. But when you think of it as a stat stick, it really doesn't matter because it could be a Typhon Hydra shoulders that had the right stats for area, resource, or whatever, right? Area, life percent, whatever you think you want to use in terms of percent life that you like. A lot of people love percent life, so their Taurasha build, right? They would use the traditional amethyst in the helmet, but you have to remember, when people use the amethyst on the helmet, your overall base vitality better be high. You have enough to make 120. Well, yeah, yes and no. It's just all about RNG, and sometimes people overcraft it when their RNG is actually really good. Then you save yourself making the 10 after, right? The only reason to make like multiples at a time is because you're hunting for the primal from a bigger 30 one shot at a time, right? Because all your hunting is for that red mouse over. So the whole efficiency thing depends on what you're actually hunting. So if I'm hunting for the primal, well, you can still say the same, that the RNG is that you could technically craft the first one, and the first one is primal too. So then you waste the next 30, right? Next 29. But the whole idea of making multiples at a time is if you're already up to hunting the primal, so to speak. But that's just me personally, so that you can save more resource for something else, right? But anyway, so it really doesn't matter whether it's an ancient one right now for your bracers, okay? All you want is the cold and the crit hit chance, and then obviously the dex vit stuff, which makes all four important. But the more important is the cold and crit to maintain your damage. Well, to maintain the foundational damage outside of guardians, because you already have it from your reps usage before. So your priority is to maintain that, but add the dex vit to double on guardians from the 3-piece bonus. So you actually just want like a usable non-ancient anyway. But your belt was important to have an ancient because you're lacking the all resist. But unfortunately, the one that you RNG in a sense was the physical resist one, and physical resist is fine. And the percent life is fine for guardians anyway in the beginning until you really need the resist, which is why I love using diamonds in the chest piece in chest and pants if my pants had sockets. But on the guardian jeopardy though, if my pants had sockets, I kind of prefer that if my priority were actually the sockets, then I would use all 5 emeralds. But I love resistances and I know how to make up my damage, then I just use diamonds myself. So I got my 138 done. I mean, what's the point of the emeralds? They either caused me to die more times because I didn't die. I had to like heal myself up 5 times, but I didn't die and I didn't fish. So the whether I use emeralds is not the problem. But yeah, so your bracers, you just want, a usable cold crit. Your belt is more important because you're forcing, well, this previous belt showed that you had to make defensive choices, a defensive choice. Okay, okay, so roll the life per second to crit hit chance, and then obviously once you get your whispers of atonements to 125, augment both of them, right? And that's where your main stat is. So life per second to crit hit chance, and then in your cube you want the hunter's wrath belt in the cube, and then you equip the equip the depth fence on yourself, and you want a 94% or higher. That's good. That's fine. 5.5 is fine. So now you just need to make sure that you have the pants on you equipped. And since your pants isn't augmented yet, as far as this planner showed, then you're you're not short on anything if you're using uh even a non-ancient pants. You're not really short yet, right? I mean, sure, it's a little bit less dex even if you're that thing, but the doubling from guardians would have kind of broke even. Yeah, so when so you want to gamble for pants. So obviously, uh I'm sure you saved your armory of your build, right? So just go start, hoarding pants, or just farm a bit, right? And then save a pants. And then hopefully you get a pants that is like 90% or higher, okay? You can make up the damage because I've done it before where I decided to randomly roll the one I was using. So the one I was using was like a 92% or something like that, or 94%, and I wanted to try to roll it, but then I when I rolled it like 3 times one other season, I got to 81% on accident, but I wanted to push, one or two tiers higher as well. So I pushed with the 81% and it was fine because I made up the damage anyway. I mean, I'm missing like 15%, well, 13% damage that I lost from randomly using the one I was equipped. to reforge it, right? Thinking I will get a primal version or a better than the 94% on it. And I didn't. Instead, I dropped really low down to 81%. But I was on a mood for pushing anyways. So I needed to use it temporarily, right? So I temporarily used the 81% by the accident of choice that I thought I could gamble a better equipped one. So anyway, it's just like when you know how to make up the damage while playing in the Rift, you can still use a bad one. You just need the equipment slot to actually be equipped, you know, to have the build going, right? To have all the correct multipliers going. So all you need is just a pair of pants, really. But to make sure that you're not losing damage is the fact that you want to be at that 6% kind of satisfaction. So 94% isn't bad. 90% onwards isn't too bad. People just tend to have a whole perfectionist or perfect builds in the sense of primals or perfect RNG, which I have had before. I think it's like 2 or 3 seasons ago. I actually got a drop of depth diggers that was 100% ancients and 130 all resist and 2 sockets and whatnot that I could get. Yeah, so it was like I've had it before, and then my friend tried to drop me the 85% depth diggers with the same stats, primary stats. I said, well, my RNG was just better ahead of you by like several runs, because he dropped one right like within the next 30 minutes. He dropped one thinking that I could use that one, but I already got the 100% drop version ancient already. So it's just all about knowing how to make back that damage through the way you strafe in the rift, as well as the maintenance of the necklace stacks and whatnot, right? So it's just all about your positioning skills. But yeah, so you just farm some with your current setup, and then once you have the pants, you can swap to it, and then you'll see that your damage would be, your um. Oh my God, Andy. So Jedi, once you use the Guardian stuff, you can test it out on a 130 or whatever, and you'll feel a lot better. And then once you warm up to it, you'll realize that the reps of clarity isn't so important to a certain extent. It's just gonna be the reps of clarity eating you up a little bit. And then one last thing, I don't know if you're still listening, is that um as soon as you are capable of warming up higher, you should do a little higher. And I know this is not a popular kind of opinion, okay? But if you're doing speeds of 120, okay, it is good for paragons, right? But you're not, first of all, you're not learning anything in terms of like understanding monster types and whatnot. And if you're actually pushing, you actually want to start learning about it. But that's not the topic of what I'm going to say. What I'm going to say is that I just mouse over your gems, right? And you're starting to push 132 and higher. So your main gems are starting to fall past 10, if not 12 ranks, if not going to be 15 soon. So you're never really going to upgrade unless you feel like the type of game style that a lot of people prefer is to play upon the 100% upgrades, right? Now, if you're never gonna do 134 consistently or whatever around the 133 consistently by yourself or in groups, let's say, you're never gonna rank up your main gems ever. Like you're just gonna wait until you get proper groups to play, right? So whenever you're warming up, so you don't have to do what I do. What I'm trying to say is that let's say you're gonna decide to push 132 like tomorrow, okay? Let's just give an example that you're gonna push the 132 tomorrow. So what do? Well, you want to warm up, right? People usually warm up. When you warm up, you do a 125, for example. Even though 125 and 132 is different, I get it. But my personal take is this. When you do those 125 warm up or 130 warm up, okay, your gem is 120, 122, 122. Even clicking the 60%, obviously it's more than 60%, but honestly, I just dislike 80% or 90% because I failed more 80% and 90% at Urshi than the 60%. Okay? I understand that 60% is a guaranteed fail for the most part, and I failed 4 or 5 times in a row before, even at 60%. But come on, if you talk about 60% and 80 or 90, failing more at 80 or 90 doesn't make sense. Okay? So the 60% isn't a problem, okay, at all. People just make it seem like a problem. Well, okay, let's talk even further about that. People who love to do speeds, they don't even care about 60%, okay? Yeah, yeah. So I'm just saying, because now that you're pushing your 132, right? Okay, ads. Yeah, I'm not worried about the items on the ground anyway. They were trash. It was just like 7 souls. I didn't move in game, which I should have moved around a little bit that I normally do, but because I'm so dedicated and focused, I just didn't. And I'm alt tapped to the OBS anyways. Okay, yeah. So as I was saying, so it's fine that you're farming for gear and doing the 120. It's okay. But now that we're on the push route, and if you're ever warming up, so let's say tomorrow 132, you warm up a 125 or 130 or a GR 130 to warm up before the 132, even though that 130 you might open a really good rift and you're like, oh my gosh, I wish I opened this as a 132 then, right? So anyway, the warm up is that if you ever open a warm up that's higher than your main gems, it is still a 60% upgrade. Just click the 60%, okay, on your main gems. And while the ad was going through, right, what I was gonna say is that a lot of people care about that 60% being annoying, right? Well, guess what? A lot of people tend to click speed runs that click 1% upgrades anyway because they don't care about what they're clicking. The goal of the speed run is just the EXP and the next loot of hunting primals and whatnot. And they say, well, I don't care about what I'm going to upgrade because in the proper groups, I get 100% upgrades anyway. But the whole idea is that if you're doing a speeds that is relative to a gem that you can actually do, 60% is fine. And besides, on the topic of 60%, right? When whenever people are doing 150s, let's say 150 speeds, the 149 ranked gem to the 150 gem is never 100% anyway. So as you go higher, you're working towards the 60% Urshi clicks anyway. So the 60% clicks shouldn't be a quote unquote problem. People just make it sound like a problem, okay? But people click more 1% than 60% because they have nothing better to click. And all the whole goal of the clicking of the 1% is to get rid of Urshi, right? So you might as well click a 60% to get rid of Urshi. Okay? There's no reason for the 1% ever. Okay, the only time the 1% was a thing was back in the day. But that's also if you're consistently good enough to bother the 1% to chance that properly anyway. So the 1% clicks is just until you're consistent enough at even trying the 1% in the back in the day, then the 1% matters. But with the 60% clicks, it's not a difficult thing. So when you're ever warming up, so it's just an example. If you warm up 125, you can level up this taeguk to 125 at 60% at some point through warm-ups. So let's say you need to take 3 warm-ups. So 3 125s to warm up before you do a 132 as an example. Well, you would have probably, 12 chances of 60% to get from a 122 to a 126 taeguk. 12 chances from 3 warm-up runs, right? That's just a simple example, give or take, without empowering, without rips, hopefully, right? And if you're ripping on 125, then the 132 isn't going to be, you know, it's just annoying to think about. If you rip on a 125, sure, you might be not looking at your screen because somebody called you on your phone or whatever, or somebody knocked on your door and you forgot to pause, you died. Okay, that's another reason altogether, right? But if your goal is to push a 132 as an example, but you died on a 125, well, good luck on the 132 then. So the whole thing on the 60% just doesn't make sense to me. The fact that people dislike, you know, the whole goal of the 60%. Yeah. So that's why I decided to mouse over the gems just to let you know that at some point your 132 is going to you might as well gain like small percents, because a lot of people also like, let's just say Andy just mentioned that he got 4 days of nothing, right? 4 days of no upgrades. Well, if your gems are quote unquote this decent rank, okay, 120 is decent rank, but if you can marginally gain 2%, okay, it's not really 2%, but let's just use 2% as a number, okay? If you can get 2%, it's better than 4 days of nothing from 60% Urshi clicks that you could successfully do 125 rifts anyway. People just overemphasize on speeds of under 2 minutes. You know, you're not in a hurry. Okay, so for example, you have okay, unless you're at work. Okay, I use this. This is like a rant that I go on a lot because unless you're at work or unless you're taking a bus, 15-minute bus ride. Okay, you have only 15 minutes to play or 10 minutes of work break, and you turn on your laptop. You want to play 5 games of under 2 minutes. Okay, that is totally different. You know, that is the point of under 2 minutes. If you want to gain something, you know, instead of 4 days of nothing, as an example of 4 days of nothing, well, if you could rank up your gem by even, you know, 2 ranks, okay, on a slower run, 4 days of nothing is an excuse. I'm not saying, I'm just using that as an example, okay? But even 0.5% on a gem that is upgradable at 60% is better than a nothing, right? That's just a very small speck of an example. So a lot of people downplay the 60% as though it's such a big deal, but they overemphasize on time. Yeah. So you don't have to do a 132. You know, you don't have to do that high. But like when you want to start pushing, your gem should get a little closer. And so on the topic of closer, right? So guess what? My gems is 131, 139, and 129. Okay? How did I get my gem to 139? Well, as I was pushing, as I was pushing, I was ranking up my simplicity. That was my simplicity. I think I got pushed off. Yeah, I got pushed off already. I was on the a few days ago. Okay. And Andy got the 138 now or recently. Yeah, see, you have the damage to do that. Okay, so when I view hero details, right? My Taeguk is 130, my trap was 128, and my simplicity at the time when I did the 138 push, it was 138 already because while I was pushing the 128, 131, 133, 135, 137, 138, I was ranking up my simplicity at the 60% chance, however far I can get the RNG to give me the luck of 60%. So then you're taking advantage of the chance that you can go a little higher, but you're also using the 60% instead of wasting 100% on something that you're not going to use, right? If you're not going to use it, you rank 100% for nothing. You might as well chance the 60%, especially the fact that if you gain nothing for 4 days, but you push something and you get a 60% upgrade, it's still a 0.2% upgrade per screen of damage, right? So a lot of people downplayed something based on time when it's not even about the time, it's about the percentage gain. So that's why it's so unpopular as an opinion, but it's a thing. So that's what I like rather, you know, okay, the screen was in the way because I forgot to turn it off. Um let me show again on the hero details. It was blocking. So my simplicity is 138 while I was pushing. So that's why I got a 139 simplicity because I was playing my simplicity strength at 60% upgrades the whole time. And then at any point my gem is already past the 60%, right? Then I would click another gem. And then even the other gem that was behind by a lot, it was a 100% upgrade for the 127 trapped to a 128 trapped at the 138 or 137 at the time or whatever, then I just click the 100%. Then at that time, I did my own 100%, right? Which a lot of people are like, oh, when you do your 140s groups anyway, you get a 100% upgrade on a 128 gem with a 140 GR. Well, I pushed a 138, and then when I click a gem that I didn't want to upgrade, but it's still part of my main gems, that is a 128, now I got 100% to a 129, for example. Just example, it might be a 90% on this current example, but basically I had 100% and I had a VOD anyways. So while upgrading, the VOD shows that I clicked the 100% upgrade while I was doing my own solo push. So that's besides the point. You don't have to have proper groups to get the 100%, and even then, by the time you reach 149 to 150 or they're close, you're going to be clicking 60% no matter what. So yeah, so once you find the Death Diggers pants, try the Guardians, and then you'll make your life a little easier up to a certain point. And and yeah, it's good that Andy's actually trying, you know, to go higher now because he can. At the gear that he has, let's just take a look at his gear. Freaking crazy. So the helmet was really early. The amulet was next, I think, recently or at the time that was played, and then he just said he got this. Well, this doesn't really match the Guardians per se, but it's really good. So you're losing some health from the Guardian setup thing, and then you're forcing the emeralds, I guess. So yeah, okay, 12%. Yeah, the gear is insane. If only you're still we're still looking for your better ethereal, huh? Wow. Once you get a better ethereal, you're gonna fly. I mean, 4 point near 4.2 is really strong, but like if you get the right stuff going, it's gonna be insane. 915. Dang. Yeah, I'm not there yet. I'm close, but I need to get my 600% on the. So, looking at my gear, right? Remember, I did my 138 with this 566. So, if you have a better ninth series legendary power than I do, right? I have to make up 34% myself. And when I say make up damage, it sounds really stupid, right? The way that I say it, but you just have to imagine how much I'm missing per screen per monster, right? So you have to realize how much you make up the damage. And my Bariza is only a 3.5k, also, by the way. So there's so much margin that I have to make up. And then my amulet isn't. I mean, it's good in the dexterity sense for the Guardian Jeopardy doubling for now, but at some point I need that cold version, right? So I have a lot of margin that's different from others in terms of these three pieces alone. I have to make up 34% damage. I have to make up 500 on the number on average. I have to make up 500. I have to make up that this 36%, 34%, sorry. I meant 34. I kept saying 36. But yeah, so I have to make up a lot of damage. So to make up that damage, you have to decide, okay, how you strafe. The, yeah, he's gotten a lot of usable primals this season, especially at only under 1500. Well, 1500 Paragon, but he got it like recently. This one. But of course, a lot of people might be even more lucky than he is. But anyway, he has a lot of usable primals, more than myself included. But again, I have to make up that 34%. And how do you do that? Well, first of all, the direction of where the monsters are, the position of the Oculus ring or the pink ring. Oh, speaking of the pink ring, you know what? When I did the push the other day, I didn't even have my potion power ready. Okay, So even if I was pressing Q, whether it's for healing or not, okay, where before season 28 existed, we used to heal for we used to press our potion power for healing, which is what I did in my 137 and 138, where I was getting hurt a lot. Even though I didn't die a single time, I actually managed to heal myself at the right moment. Okay, is that I actually didn't even have the potion powers to help me. Okay, while I was doing the 137 and 138, I didn't have any potion power. So if we're talking about potion power RNG, okay, if I use it more often in the right RNG, I would gain another bit of percent per 30 seconds or whatever, right? So it comes down to like understanding whether you can use certain Oculus rings, what the split percentage is for density and elite packs. If you can do 60-40 or 65-35 or 70-30 split, you have to find out how to do that. And then if you're on that fishing route, then you need to understand what you're fishing for, right? Not always that you need to fish the same one all the time up until you really need that same one. But when you are fishing, if you have the right density, you want to kill the density too. You don't just elite hunt on the best density type that you get, right? So you need to understand, well, the people, everyone who want to push, sometimes you need to understand that you're also looking at the build for the density type and the split between that and not just elite hunt because a lot of people do too much speed runs and they're way too much on the elite hunt concept. Yes, it is elite hunt on certain builds too, such as, the the Shiruki Triumph Witch Doctor Arakir Elite Hunting build. That one's an Elite Hunter, right? And then there's also the Wave of Light that a lot of people prefer the Elite Hunting way and whatnot. So, and then also the Meteor build where if you're using the in jump Orb of Infinite Depths, that's more Elite Hunting as well. Even though Meteor is covers area damage as well. So it's kind of like you need to find the moments that you're actually elite hunting versus the builds that aren't elite hunting where you actually should decide on the split, the density and elite split. But anyway, I am going to take a break. I'm going to take a break and I'm going to cheer on my friend pushing. Oh, hey Garlic. Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to take a break, but I was doing a gear check and I was talking on and on about 60% stuff uh at Urshi and whatnot. I got nothing today. Not that I played a lot about it, but I just got nothing out of like 400 drops from Visions. I didn't get very much from Visions, just the materials. Even in the speed GRs, I didn't get very much. Yeah, no problem, Jedi. You will feel a lot better with the Guardians now. Or as long as you're not too used to the reps of clarity, you should feel okay with the Guardians. And then just strafe like you normally would to the point of don't just elite hunt in the 132. Yeah. I mean, not that you were doing it in that sense, but just be mindful that it is different from the 120 or the 125, and then you should do fine. So just understand the density and elite split, especially if if your ethereal is the Fortress Ballista version, then at some point it's going to be so painful that your fortress isn't refreshing enough of the shields. So then you have to play it a little differently anyway, right? So even that already will kind of give you an idea that you should play from a emptier room or emptier screen, right? And earlier I was going to show the 132 just at random, but I mean, if you weren't using Guardians, then you wouldn't see it yourself anyway. But in the future, for sure, uh, you know, I'll randomly show, possibly, hopefully, the RNG isn't so bad to where I would struggle. But in my 137 and 138 push, I did talk out loud a lot of what I was thinking. So if you actually watch the 137 and 138 uh, push attempt, yeah, yeah, 86 is fine to just use the Guardian set and then just get a feel of it. So just use it anyway, and then use the Guardian setup, and then just run a few times and see what you feel about the Guardian set. Because if you've not experienced it, whether it's 86% or not, you can tell the difference already anyway. Once you use the 86, so just use the 86, and then uh just farm with the Guardians, and then you'll start to understand why it's helpful for a while, even though you don't have the Raps of Clarity on you. It will feel kind of weird though. Uh, when you're kind of like I keep speaking of the Raps of Clarity, is that a lot of people get really used to how protective Raps of Clarity is, to the point where they don't feel Guardian is really good at all. And I get it, but just use it. Yeah, not ancient though. Yeah, then it's still fine, because remember your cube power. When you cubed it initially anyway, it is just using the 100%, right? So now that your belt is in there with a 200%, and then you equip it with 100%, you still gain 6% from your belt being in the cube right now. So you still gain 6% from before, on top of the gain, not including the guardian gain, right? So you still upgraded 6%. So every marginal up percent is an upgrade. People just over focus on ancient up until you actually need it. So when what I mean by that, I'll just tangent one more time before I go, is that I augment to gain damage for pushing. So for example, in season 29, sure, I ultra delayed my augmenting up to past 140. So I did my 140 without augmenting. Season 29 was a Paragon cap too. So they have no sockets. Yeah, I'm playing without sockets, by the way. But if you want to play with sockets, then you should just use emeralds. So is my screen good? Yeah, okay. So for my decision here, right? I like diamonds. So, but if I choose sockets, then I should use emeralds. But that's just me. That's my, like, I didn't do the math, okay? But whether the math it is or it isn't, okay? The point is this. I like diamonds myself, but if I'm not going to use emeralds, I think my pants shouldn't have sockets. Because if I go for sockets, I should put emeralds. So unless I have both, the way that I need to play it for both the hungering and sockets, okay, then I can use diamonds. But if I have to choose one or the other, right, whether it's the hungering 15 or the two sockets, if I'm a lover of diamonds, I would rather my hungering damage. Whether the math is incorrect, I don't care. The point is that if I'm going to use emeralds on the two sockets though, I might as well use 5 emeralds and not just two. So that is how I'm playing my pair of pants. But of course, you know, An ancient version, you get to augment, so you make back some stuff as well. That's where I make back a little bit, whereas a non-ancient isn't. But the whole idea is that you're using in the first place the the power. If you have the 100%, it's just like the cube extract. So you're using it for your multiply, your initial foundation multipliers first. Yeah. So that's how I go about it. It might not be the right math at all, but that's fine. But that's my own logic. And then besides, if I use emeralds, my playstyle on certain density issues, I'll get killed. I'm just not that player for emeralds. I just don't like it. Offense is the best defense, but I just don't like it because I play more density even. So I pull actually even harder. Even though it doesn't seem like it, I actually pull a lot harder. And because I'm more focused on density in my density elite split. So, for example, a lot of people might be like, well, if you're elite hunting, you really just want the bare minimum on your screen, right? So then the five emeralds has the defense of the double dip. I get it, but that defense is only enough because you play in a certain way that there's limited density. But when you start playing the density split in the way that a trash killer build like God DH is more to the side of density, and you play density, the diamonds just is the more of the play style. Nice 15% hungering on them. I mean, it just depends on how you want to play. Whether you want to play two emeralds, like my friend is playing the sockets way, so it's like I like that he's using the emeralds. See, I like that he's. I mean, again, it's whether the math is correct or incorrect. I just feel like if I'm going for sockets, whether it's against the all resist or vitality or whatever, if my priority is the two sockets, it's just more emeralds. And then to the point of emeralds, you might as well just use all five emeralds. But if you like diamonds, then you can play without sockets either way. Especially if I just want resist, because in an ancient version, especially an ancient version, right? So let's talk about a different thing entirely. Ancient version, because it gave 130 resist. Because if you think about it, two diamonds, right, is 78, 78. That's 156. You're getting only 26 higher if you replace the all resist, for example. Uh, well, the reason why it's emeralds is because equipped it double dips for the guardian the guardian jeopardy. It actually double dips, which is interesting, right? So that's why it's a really weird math. Okay, I mean the main goal, okay, when you use guardians, you should use main stat gems. That is the easiest math, okay? But in terms of gameplay, okay, in gameplay, it's very situational to the style that you're pulling. Because the more you pull, unless you kill instantaneously of them, which is why in speeds or in lower, like let's say you're doing T16, right? And you save an armory. But of course, I can load up a game, but I don't really want to load. Yeah, 13.4. See, you're higher than mine. You're higher than mine. I'm at 12.4, I think. Okay, I know you're a little bit more Paragon than I am, but you also haven't augmented a lot yet. So it's more than 13.4 probably because you haven't augmented yet. Yeah, see, Andy's at 20. Okay. And that's his sheet, right? And that's your sheet. That's not the cold. Yeah. So your cold is insane. Yeah. See? So if I can pull off 12.4, okay, at the time it was 12.1, okay? If I can pull off 12.1 on a 138 first try, by the way, it sounds like I'm bragging, but it's really not, okay? The whole idea is why am I saying it's not is because I'm at 12.1 and it was first try 138. The RNG depends on how I play it. And then I'm missing this 34% like I talk about, right? So, oh my god, look at that. 33.8. Well, wait. Is it really that high or did you were you still buffed by something? Is it really that high? Does it really scale that much? I'm not I just haven't seen enough to notice. I know it's around 29. I guess it is about right. I guess it is. I guess it is about right. 33.8 sounds about right. It just feels like there might be something buffing. I'm not saying Taeguk, I'm just saying like even like a random speed thing. But anyway, that's insane. 33.8. Well, if I load up in game, I'm at 15 point something. I'm like half your damage, Andy. So when you do your 140, okay, it's about strategy as well. You have the damage. If you aren't able to do it, there's got to be a strategy to it. Okay, I know you are using the strategy already, but based on like anyone else perspective, okay, you have double my damage. You just need to be able to find that like that actual point just for other people's information. Just it's just the info. It's nothing about it. Um, that it's not insulting or anything, but like it's just you need to just find that how you can use that double damage. And I understand that 138 and 140 is different by that 17% HP per tier, right? But you have to use that double damage to the advantage because I'm missing so much. So that's just the reference point is that I'm at 15 million cold, 15 point X. I'm literally half his damage. It's actually more like 55% less. But anyway, the only advantage I have is that I have the Vala thing, which if I play more density, which is why I love diamonds, okay, that I can sneak more damage in. So the Vala concept, okay, the Vala concept in pushing is that while I'm 55% less damage than he is, I have made up. Well, I'm not going to say this is the exact math, but let's just say I made up about 15% of it through Valas. Okay? I make back 15% on average of what I'm missing against his double my damage. So now my 15 is actually like 20 something. Oh, you're using that in your cube? Well, you're losing the 50, you're losing a little bit on the cooldown, right? So you have to watch out on getting hit because you're using dexterity gems as well. You're using emeralds. So you might feel the pressure of what you're getting hit by. Yeah. I mean, the 9% window is pretty painful at the wrong time, depending on what you're using too. Um, so here's another thing, right? I like vanishing powder, but a lot of people use special recipe, right? So that 9% is gonna hurt when your vengeance falls off, and if your special recipe. Yeah, I saw that you forgot, by the way. When you did the 138, I mean, when I saw the 138 that you did, I already noticed it. The double dawn thing. I've done it before. It's not a big deal. I've done the double up before. It takes precedence anyway. So once you change to Vala though, okay, once you change to Vala, your 54% will hurt in the topic that I'm talking about right now at this point in moment is that when you hit your special recipe, you need to make sure that your special recipe timing is better on the 9% missing. Okay? Otherwise, in the 140, in the very dangerous situations without a shield pylon, for example, or without the better pylons, okay, that 9% window, you're gonna get killed. So whether it's while you're trying to push the conduit to your advantage, so let's say you're like forcing the conduit to kill an elite pack, at that 9% window, you're gonna drop dead. And then you're not able to use the conduit in the way that you wanted the conduit to have an impact on. Okay? Outside of a shield pylon. So, especially the fact that you're using 5 emeralds. So, it will hurt in that 9% window, which is like that 2.5 or 3 seconds. Maybe 2.5 seconds. 2 seconds. And it sounds stupid, but believe me, they can snipe you during that 2 seconds. Yeah, that would be better. It's just that window, okay? That window is going to be painful. But you have the damage to do 140. I'm very sure of it. Because I would do 140 if I got, 2 or more upgrades. I can do 140. I just need a bigger percent, which is one, my satchel, and two, the ethereal, or even the necklace. If I get the cold crit crit, marginally speaking, the cold is still a little better, but right now the dex is better. Especially my dex is high enough. So the dex roll is 967. So when it doubles up with the Guardian Jeopardy, this near 1000 is almost like the cold. But as soon as I start getting more paragons, then the cold side is going to start, you know, balancing out and getting more advantage by every little bit. And then the cold crit crit comes to action, which is why I still need either of the three. You're gonna make coffee now? You need your coffee to get your 140 down. I mean, I'm gonna take a break, but I hope you guys enjoyed this, even though some of my are just opinions, But like I said, I so when one last thing, why I did the 138 was because I was helping somebody else, okay? And in the topic of 138, I at that time I only did my no augment 125, so I did no augment 125, okay, which is easy, it's not difficult or anything like that. But I always usually try to do no augment 125s, okay, especially for God DH anyway. And then I only augment after 125 is done. But while I was helping somebody with 138, okay, I was like, you know what? T- Talk is bad. Typing is bad. I need to show that I could do it. So I gradually increased my GR tier pushing, which is in 125. I did it under, I think under 330 at the time, or was it under 4? No, it was 404. I think it was 404 or something like that. But anyway, it was no rips under 5 minutes, so it unlocked 128. So that's when I did the 128. And then when I cleared the 128, um, I did the 131. So I augmented after 125. So I have 8 augments for 128, so that was easy. And then 131 was okay too, was pretty easy. Because I unlocked from 128 to 131, I did the 131. And then I cleared it, but it wasn't on time, so it was 2. But I think after 130, it only jumps by 2 anyway, or something like that. So then, since it jumped by 2, then I did a 133. And then I did a 135. And then the 137 started feeling really difficult. Like, I actually felt like I had a friend tell me that 133 seems too high. But in fact, the 137 felt like where he was talking about. At the time that I should struggle, 137 was when I started struggling a little bit. Because my time actually went to 11 minutes in completion. And then the 138 was even harder than the 137. But I managed to complete it only 41 seconds more, even a one tier higher. 137 to 138 with a 41-second difference. Well, we can say it's pylon order, but in fact, even if it was the pylon order, I had a lot of issues that I had to rethink of how I was pushing. So anyway, it's in the VOD. While I was pushing the 137 and 138, I was talking about what I was thinking every almost every other screen. I was like talking about what I was deciding to do, what I should be doing, what I think I should be doing. I talked a lot during the rift itself for the push attempt, so I have a lot of like explanation while I was doing the push. It's not just a voiceover to explain after the fact. I was actually explaining while I was clearing the rift itself, and I made back the time that sometimes I was 1 minute behind, and then I made back the time, and then I broke even the time because I lost some time, and then the pylon order did help me at the end there, and then at the end I also had a 99% pylon check that I clearly made my game plan to do, and I did, and it worked out with the power pylon at the end for the Rift Guardian fight. But again, Bariza is so powerful that the power pylon isn't really necessary. It's just that it did help that I did do what I was supposed to do, which is to check for the 99% power pylon. So that gave me that faster time than I would normally have, because on a 137 11 minutes oh 07 to a 138 11:48, that is too close in between the difficulty that I should be, meaning that my 138 should have been a lot slower. It should have been a lot slower. It should have been like a 13 to a 14-minute success. But I managed to pull it off in under 12 minutes, even with the struggles I had in it. I had to deal with what I thought was the right thing to do during my rift. There was only one thing I could say that could have given me more time, is that I shouldn't have wasted time on that blue elite pack at the start of the second floor. I think that was the only thing, well, that is one of the several things I could say that I wasted more time than I needed